Hello and welcome to another episode of the Daily Chat Podcast, where we talk about all things awesome and nerdy. Alright guys, we're on the tails of what might be the greatest movie or the biggest movie event of the forever. Dan, wouldn't you agree with me on that one?
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would. This is the most ambitious crossover of all times, as the memes have said.
As the memes have said, yeah.
As the memes have said.
So, we are recording this podcast episode on just the heels of what is going to be what we just said is supposed to be the biggest movie ever. We're talking, of course, about Avengers Infinity War. And Dan, I don't know about you, but I'm also excited about it.
Get your gloves on.
Get your gloves on.
Get your gloves on.
Get your gloves on. All right.
Put on your purple face paint.
So today we are actually doing a very special episode. We're doing another list episode. Yeah, I know. I'm getting sick of these two.
Yeah.
In fact, Dan, we should actually do a list episode of like the top 10 worst list episodes we've ever seen.
Or we should actually, I think after this one we'll have enough list episodes that we could rank our worst 5 list episodes.
Ooh, can we?
This one is shaping up to be number 1.
Spoiler alert. All right, everybody. So we're just going to get started on this one. Dan, why don't you tell the nice people what we're counting down today?
All right, so today we're going to count down the best MCU films in our humble opinions. And we don't really have any kind of rating and classification system on this one like we did on the last ones, where there'd be supervillains and their evil plans, how much sidekicks were actually sidekicks, or whatever else we did on list shows that you may or may not have listened to. This one is just for pure enjoyability. So some of them, for me, are kind of like how much I enjoyed the visuals, what they tied into, how much they set up. So overall, it's just kind of a general list of what we think, and our own personal opinions, were the top 5. And there's bound to be some crossovers, because I think we all know that none of us thought that Thor: The Dark World was in the top 5. Although the movie holds a special place in my heart,
yeah,
it's not good.
Or Iron Man 2, for that matter.
Again, special place in my heart, but not good.
No.
That one doesn't even hold a special place in my heart. That one just holds a special place on my bookshelf.
Exactly.
Which is like sandwiched in between a bunch of the other Marvel movies.
It's like sandwiched in between Matrix 2 and 3.
Oh, God. Alright, it's not that bad.
Alright, okay.
Ergo, vis-a-vis.
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 Therefore.
What
have you.
Moreover to the point.
Why don't we just dive right into it? And Dan, why don't you take the floor on this one?
Cool. So, alright, top 5 kicking off this list is something that it's actually, I thought, was pretty appropriate, since it was the granddaddy of them all, Iron Man, first one. Just on how much that movie set up and expectations for the franchise that was to become, how much fun it was actually to see a great superhero film realized on screen, and that movie did a great job between balancing an origin story of a character that not a lot of people knew about, and it's not like we need another Spider-Man or Batman backstory. We get it at this point, dead parents and or uncles. But, you know, it totally revitalized Robert Downey Jr. In the broader public spotlight. He was already coming back, but this one really took him over. And, you know, it introduced the world to Tony Stark as, you know, the lovable asshole that
we've come to love.
Yeah. He's super snarky, he's super fun, and overall it was a great movie. And you know, who doesn't love that huge Mark I silver tank of an Iron Man?
Right.
The thing is great.
So
the thing's got machine guns and flamethrowers, and just none of the refinements that the later models had, but there's just something great about it.
So now's normally the part where I would continue on with your conversation and just add on top of it. And, you know, kind of agree with you or disagree with you, but this one's interesting because we both are in agreement that number 5 should be Iron Man.
Yeah, it's the granddaddy of them all.
It is the granddaddy of all. For me personally, it was just the whole... one thing the very first phase of the Marvel movies were actually very good at was setting you up for things you didn't even know you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, the big ending at the end of the first Avengers movie, when you find out, Thanos is coming, and you're like, oh, holy shit, this shit's about to get real.
Yeah.
And then, you know, at the end of this one,
post-credit scene,
where it's Samuel Jackson just straight up going, we're putting together, have you ever heard of the Avengers Initiative? And you're like, I remember my jaw hit the floor when I first heard that all those years ago. I was like, oh my God.
Right.
It's like, dude, we're going to see something crazy awesome. I mean, I had to wait like another 5 years for it, but the point is I got it.
Yeah, I mean, we between Iron Man and Iron Man 2, they snuck in so many little Easter eggs that were still so enjoyable. Nowadays, you feel like the Easter eggs are just getting so, like, heavy-handed, or they're two references of things that you're like, oh my God, look, it's Howard the Duck. Yeah, I love Howard the Duck, but, like, we saw, I think it was in Iron Man 2 where, he's like, Tony Stark is like balancing part of his, hyper coagulator cauldron thing, whatever, renewable power on like a prototype of Captain America's shield. He like calls it a piece of junk and like throws it in a corner or something like that. And like that type of stuff was like, it was all fresh, it was all brand new. We got introduced to Black Widow in the second one, but it was great to see a lot of that get set up. Not that I'm putting Iron Man 2 on this list. I just think that overall the way that it kind of set this train rolling, it's awesome.
It changed the movie industry, and we didn't even realize it at the time.
No. In hindsight, we can look back and go, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why DC movies suck now.
And what's his name there? Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges?
As, what's his name?
Obadiah Stane,
yeah.
Honestly, one of the better villains.
Underrated. Yeah. Total megalomaniac, evil bastard,
Backstabber.
Great villain, especially for like your first like super, superhero movie out,
Yeah.
That's good, as opposed to like Whiplash, the second one.
I want my bird.
What's my bird? What do you want? What's his bird? Yeah.
Someone get him his bird.
Yeah.
God damn it, Sam Rockwell.
I like Sam Rockwell, but like that was just not good.
I feel like Iron Man 2 was a waste of a Sam Rockwell and a waste of a Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, but like Iron Man doesn't really have a great rogues gallery.
No, he doesn't, which is why, in all honesty, I think I've said it before on this podcast, say what you want about the whole twist with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. If you're a diehard Iron Man fan, which, congratulations, you're one of 4.
Right. Yeah. Look, it's that guy in the back.
Right.
Iron Man, read all the comics.
Yeah. You gotta admit, at least from a comedy writer's perspective, that was genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just for the pure comedic value of it, I still think it's hysterical.
Right.
Yeah.
Tony Stark in Iron Man is a great character, like as a center point of the Avengers. And he's great in like the Illuminati. And that's where he's like most useful. But like as like standalone hero, Iron Man 2 and 3, were 3 was better than 2, but we're just okay. But the first one was great.
Yeah.
And I think they really kind of capitalized on a lot of the energy like first time out.
One of the few movies I've actually seen in theaters on more than once.
Really?
One of the few movies, yeah. I know I saw that movie in theaters twice, and I saw Dark Knight in theaters twice, which came out same year, by the way.
That's true.
Yeah. And look who's
I saw Dark Knight in theaters a lot, actually.
A lot,
yeah, I did. I saw it a lot.
Yeah.
I think I saw it like 4 times in theaters or something like
Jesus.
that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Wow, and then what else? I think I saw... Oh, God, I'm going to get flack for this one. I think I saw The Phantom Menace in theaters twice.
That's bad.
I was 8. Shut up. I was like 10 or 8 when those movies came, or whatever.
That's not your fault.
Yeah. Moving on to number 4, Dan?
So my number 4, I put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2
Okay.
at number 4. I could have dropped this lower onto the list for me. I also could have put it in the honorable mention slot. I felt like it just needed to get incorporated somewhere, and I was just having a hard time placing it. But I felt like number 4 was fine because a lot of people didn't like this movie as much as the first one. I thought that this was a really great character study for all of the individual, we learned a lot more about each of the team members. Some people might have not wanted that, but they're not characters that the mass public widely knows. So I thought it was interesting to see.
Right, they're not like Superman or Batman
or Spider-Man. We don't really
Wolverine to a lesser extent.
Yeah, we don't really need to know all of their motivation because we kind of get it. They've been but Star-Lord and Gamora and Drax and Rocket especially we learned a lot more about. And again, for me, this was just spectacular visually. I'm a huge fan of the whole Jack Kirby influenced style, so that's why Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy are still some of my favorite, and this one are still some of my favorites. Doctor Strange too as well because I love the spectacle behind them. and just paired with like an awesome and amazing soundtrack. I mean, that's one that you can just like the soundtrack between both of those movies you can put on your Spotify and just run that on the loop, and like that's just those are just great mixes. Like everything on there is just absolute fire.
Right. I will definitely say I am one of those people that definitely like the first Guardians of the Galaxy better than the second one, but it's by hairs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like me saying like, yeah, I guess I would have to give the second one like a 97, but the first one I'm going to give like a 98. Like,
right,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I think on like Rotten Tomatoes the rating split is between like Guardians of the Galaxy is like floating around like a 97%. Volume 2 is floating around like a 92%.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like okay, yeah, but we can all agree they were both great and fun.
Exactly. Like no one's going to like stick your nose up at you if you like one over the other.
I think the first one had like greater stakes and felt more tied into the Marvel universe because Thanos, the Stones, the Nova Corps, it just felt like a little bit more complete. Where this one felt like kind of its own detached, one-off shot story.
Right. One thing I definitely do like though about the second one over the first one is I do agree with you that it did feel more like a character study, but I was okay with that.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, I want to go as far as to say that that's the one thing that one of the many things that Marvel seems to be doing better about their whole world building that DC doesn't like. Like I'm actually invested in these characters and everything like that. Like even in Wonder Woman, which again,
it's the best of them. Yeah.
It's the best of it. Which, and I really hate saying it because it's not that Wonder Woman in and of itself is a bad movie or even anywhere near as bad as this one. But it's kind of like saying that Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequel movies. Like yeah, but what are you really comparing it to?
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I think that. They treated the like order of operations for like origin story a little bit differently in this in these two movies. I'm curious to see what they do in the third one. But the first one felt more like the Avengers did, right? We were just team building. We weren't origin storying everyone. In the first Avengers, we didn't find out how Thor became Thor or Captain America. We already established that.
Right, exactly.
So we just jumped right into these are the superheroes. They're going to be the Avengers. Get used to it. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, we didn't do all that much exposition on who these people were and what they're doing. We just kind of like jumped right into it, and we were this is the team.
It's weird, like how they were able to do that though, because it feels like that's what DC is constantly trying to do. Like they're trying to do things a little bit backwards, as in like let's build a team and then we'll build the characters. But it doesn't work like that. The reason why I think it worked in Guardians of the Galaxy was because we've already had this universe established.
Good point.
Like the Guardians are just more or less. I mean, we can get into this a little bit later, but I feel like the Guardians have always just been there to further expand and just show you just how big this universe really is.
Right.
Whereas like everything that's been going on in DC has just been kind of like, we got Batman, guys, we got Batman, guys. No, seriously, guys, we've got Batman. Like that's all it really has been.
I also think that because they're not as big, like of characters, like they're not like you also don't have to spend as much time in like fan service.
Right, exactly.
Like justifying your actions to like bringing these people. You don't have to have Batman going around being like, I'm assembling a super team. Like nobody gives a shit why the Guardians of the Galaxy are getting together. It's
like they really only get together. It just feels like they. It almost feels like this is the kind of like setup, start and finish, start, middle, and end that Suicide Squad should have had. Like let's get a bunch of misfits together. They form a team for some unknown reason. They end up becoming reluctant heroes
because they needed to break out of prison.
Exactly.
That was effectively the whole reason.
That's the only reason they became friends.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say that they're friends.
No,
They say that they're family at the end, but we all know what
that was the point. That was the point of the second one.
Yeah.
Is that like they're not friends, they're family.
Yeah.
And that like I think Gamora even like gives a line like that. But yeah, the first one.
I think it's actually Drax, but
whatever.
Either way.
Yeah.
It's one of the emotionless ones that like to break things.
The whole reason for their being of a team was because they were going to A, escape from prison, and then B, like sell an Infinity Stone for a bunch of money.
Right.
So it was totally capitalistic. Was their like reasons for joining together? It was nothing like altruistic. We've got to save the universe or anything like that. It's a glorified, hyped up grab and smash heist movie.
Which is kind of what the second one ended up being too, in a weird way.
Yeah, kind of. That one got weird with Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
You know, the secret, well, not even secret dad, but, you know.
Alright, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is actually Marvel's The Avengers. The first one, okay. I actually wanted to contradict something a little bit with you because I have recently rewatched this movie. Not that recently, maybe in the past year or so I've rewatched it, and I will admit that the first act of this movie does kind of drag just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, because I realized what it was, and it's because, first off, you and I are at a point where we're just sick and tired of origin stories. Not sick and tired of it, but
No, sick and tired is the correct term.
Yeah, okay, fine. We're sick and tired of origin stories. And when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, we've already established with these characters, for the most part, like we didn't know that much about Black Widow or Hawkeye. In fact, we still don't know that much about Hawkeye.
We need more Hawkeye.
We just need more Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Said no one ever. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at though is you suddenly realize it's because that this is just another origin movie. It's just it's more like this is the team's origin story. Right. So, you know, but either way, it's still really good. And no matter what, once they start kicking up and destroying Midtown, like that's when the movie really starts.
Yeah.
It is without a doubt one of the best final fight sequences in a movie I've ever seen. Just with the Chitauri coming down like Galaga.
Yeah.
Yep. Just, you know, that whole thing. And it also just really went ahead to show the real dynamic of what goes into being on a team like that. You know, the one thing you realize is just, you know, the big thing is everyone's ego gets in the way.
Right.
Particularly Tony Stark's.
Right.
Like constantly trying to, like, I love the whole idea of him constantly poking Bruce Banner. Just be like, no, come on, just turn a little green. Just turn a little green. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Shut up. Like, you know, and like and like you really start to begin to see the dynamic between him and Captain America. How, you know, Captain America would prefer to just think things out and like, you know.
You know the thing that actually really bugged me about the first Avengers movie?
What?
I hated the costumes, like overall.
Cap does have the worst costume in that.
Cap has the worst costume. Thor's costume is bad. I mean, Iron Man's is just, you know, the Iron Man suit. You know, Hawkeye's got that weird one glove, Remy LeBeau Gambit thing going on.
Yeah.
You know, like, that, honestly, it's one thing that, like, and I know it's, like, superficial, and it's really
The costumes are terrible in the movie.
But, like, it totally takes me out of it, because the entire time I'm like, how does Cap hear anything? he's you know, he's in the middle of a war, and he's wearing earmuffs.
Right.
Like, that is probably, like, the worst. That's arguably worse than Nick Fury only having one eye. Is that Cap can't hear anything.
How does he look at both these screens? He turns his head. Sounds taxing.
Yeah.
That is another thing too. Actually, it really just showed that movie more than any of them really shows off Tony Stark's sarcasm.
It does.
And it also gave us one of my favorite meme pictures ever of just Tony Stark rolling his eyes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you know, the final fight scene is easily one of my favorite moments ever. And like I said, it closed out the first act in a very similar way to that, like I just said, that Iron Man 1 did, where it turns out it's setting you up for something bigger that you didn't even know you wanted.
Right.
Yeah. So that whole ending with Thanos, and it's because of that movie now, that's kind of where we are, why there are so many other failing shared universes popping up every once in a while, like the DCEU, or even worse, the Dark Universe.
I wish that would actually become a thing.
The Dark Universe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would actually be a great idea. It's just
that would be a great idea.
The problem that that every single one of these post-Avengers shared universes are trying to do is they treat the shared universe more like it's a set piece, I feel like.
Yeah. As
opposed to what Marvel does, which is they treat it more like a character.
Right.
Yeah, so when people refer to the MCU, you really get a feel for all the characters and everything that's in it.
I also think there's a bit of a, like, especially for the Dark Universe, and even to a certain degree for, like, the DC Universe, like, I think there's a certain set of exhaustion for those characters. Like, we don't need another Frankenstein movie.
Right.
We've had 1 billion. We don't need another Dracula movie. We've had 1 billion. Into the DC, we don't need another Superman movie. We've so far had 10?
Yeah.
About that?
To varying degrees.
We've had about 10.
Let's be real here. The only two that people truly love are the first 2 Richard Donner movies.
I don't even like the first one. I like Superman 2. Superman 2 is a great movie.
See what I mean now?
Superman 2 is a great movie.
See what
Superman
I mean?
1 is...
He doesn't even throw a punch in the first movie.
No. He flies around the world backwards, which makes absolutely no sense.
That's
not how time works.
Yeah.
Time doesn't work because the Earth spins. that is not how time works.
No, it is not how time works.
But Marlon Brando is
Zor-El.
Zor-El, my son. Take this meatball sandwich and take it to Earth. Watch out, people will be different and they won't have provolone.
It is probably one of my favorite things ever, though.
Oh shit.
My son.
Yeah, but okay, so we're exhausted of Superman, we're exhausted of Batman, we're exhausted of the Mummy, the Wolfman, we're done. But we never got a Black Panther movie until recently. You know what I mean? That's the first time we've ever seen that character on screen, and it got huge hype around it because it was the first time that ever happened. You know what I mean? And same type of thing with a lot of these movies. Like Captain America got a shitty 4 TV movie made in the 80s, which was awful. But we didn't have a dozen Captain America movies leading up to the first one. So when the first one came out, everybody was stoked to see it because everybody knows who Captain America is. He's a dude who punched Hitler in the mouth. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
That's America.
That is totally America.
That's America right there.
America.
Fuck that dude.
Fuck Hitler. And any Nazi. I don't care if any Nazis listen to this show. Fuck Nazis.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on, shall we? Or
So my number. What are we on?
Tres.
We're on 3. So my number 3. And speaking of the hype and new characters, Black Panther.
Okay.
Yeah, number 1. Not number 1. Number 3, Black Panther. I thought that this was a really great. First of all, this was probably the best villain I think that we've got out of an MCU movie thus far.
Thus far.
I mean, we'll see what's to come with Thanos as Josh Brolin, whoever else they're gonna wrap in. And there's been other great villains. I'm not discounting that all the other ones were bad, but I think that Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger had the most legitimate grievance. It's when you find a good villain when you can find good points in his argument.
Yeah.
And that to an extent is very much like Killmonger. You don't agree with his tactics and his approach. You agree that there is something wrong that needs to change and be different. And it definitely impacted the character in a way to push them into the Marvel universe. The Black Panther story could have been very contained. And it's very much all the Thor movies were very contained. The Thor movies had very little interaction except for Thor Ragnarok, but even that one has very little until the last 15 minutes. 5 minutes actually had very little to do with the outside universe. The whole point of
the second one dealt with an Infinity Stone though. So
but I feel the Infinity Stone is just kind of I don't know that it pushes them into that direction, but it doesn't push them into that world.
Right.
Especially because I don't think that there's been, except from the audience's perspective, if you look at the characters, they have no realization that that's a joining force across the universe, right? But Killmonger, pushing T'Challa to be more socially conscious and to play a bigger role into the outside world, directly puts him in a path where he has to interact with other heroes and villains outside of Wakanda, So I think it did a really great job of being its own movie, but at the same time making sure that it was aware that there's another universe out there. Again, like you said, it treats the MCU as a character, not just a sentence.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not just there's an Infinity Stone every time that there's I'm Dr. Hyde or whatever else.
Not to disagree with you, but they kind of and I mean, obviously, they could. It doesn't matter where they threw this movie in the release order. They could have gone that angle regardless.
Sure.
But it's just now more than ever because that's the movie coming out right before Infinity War, before the grand set piece. They had to acknowledge.
I don't think that there was a reason. There wasn't a reason not to. But also, this whole planned and shared universe thing has been going on since Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
So it's not this is a new idea that a movie that comes out has to be a part of a bigger piece. Doctor Strange really wasn't. Again, Infinity Stone, but none of these characters know that all the Infinity Stones loop together. They will find out soon, but they don't know yet. And again, until the last 5 minutes of the movie where they throw in the post-credit scene where Doctor Strange is interacting with Thor.
Yeah.
But this one, the whole point of this movie and the villain was that you can't just be Wakanda. You can be Wakanda, you can be good for Wakanda, but you have to interact with the wider world. Which is why I thought that, like, very interesting direction for the movie. That and, just a badass movie. We had, Andy Serkis was awesome. I wish Claude survived to see another day because he was just such a fun villain.
I made it back.
He was just such a fun villain. You could just tell that he was absolutely having a ball playing that character.
He could have been, honestly, had he made it out of this movie and we saw him in a follow-up, he could have potentially been my favorite villain in the MCU.
I mean,
he could have potentially become, just for those reasons.
I don't know if it would have been. I think Killmonger would have been one of my favorite villains, but he definitely would have been in the rankings of like one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like same type of thing. Like why I really like Rocket Raccoon. Like not my favorite hero.
No,
by any means of the exaggeration. But
in fact,
like,
I wouldn't call Rocket a hero at all.
No, but like one of my favorite characters. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Who doesn't love a little furry woodland creature? With a penchant for explosives and big guns.
Exactly.
That's hysterical. But yeah.
All right. My number 3, I'm going to go with Spider-Man Homecoming.
I have nothing to say.
You have nothing to say. Well, for me, part of it is because of I've always been a huge Spider-Man fan ever since I was a kid. He's always been one of my top favorites. And look, as far as the prior movie franchises are concerned, both respectively the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield movies,
I hate Mondays.
They each have respectable different things that made them good. Like, for example, I think Tobey Maguire was actually a good Peter Parker. I don't think he was the greatest Spider-Man ever. And whereas Andrew Garfield, I would say the reverse is true. I liked him better as Spider-Man, but I didn't like him without the suit on. Very much.
Andrew Garfield made absolutely no sense to me as Peter Parker. I do not believe for one hot second that Andrew Garfield is a high school nerd getting picked on.
Yeah, exactly. Neither do
bullshit.
I. Yeah, exactly.
That's straight up bullshit.
Yeah, no. But the point I'm trying to get at though is Tom Holland just nails both sides of the character pretty well in the sense that
I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I just haven't seen the movie just because I'm honestly absolutely exhausted with that character. I'm just done.
I get it.
I'm just done. I can't. It's the same reason I still haven't seen the new Justice League movie, and it's because I've seen parts of it. I didn't even finish it, and it's because that it hurts me to say this, but I'm exhausted with those characters. I'm exhausted with Batfleck.
Yeah.
I'm just I don't care. You've made cameos in one other movie. We saw you in Batman vs Superman. It's just, I don't care anymore, man. I don't care. Do something new.
Well,
surprise me.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to dwell on it for too long then, just because I also think that Michael Keaton played a really good villain as a Vulture in that movie. It was just overall, it was just done really, really well, and on top of that, too, they're hinting at bigger things to come.
Yeah.
That don't necessarily have to do with the universe as a whole, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably, depending on what's up for their release schedule, and I don't think they've announced anything yet, and, what happens coming out of, Infinity War, I'd be excited to see what we can do to revitalize, now that Marvel has control back underneath, there's a lot of villains that I'd like to see them try to resurrect. We've got the Venom movie coming out, so, we'll see how things go in the Spider-Verse. I'm not calling that the Spider-Verse. It's already a thing in the comics, but I think we should just go ahead and designate that the Spider-Verse.
Okay, fine.
Because we've already got the Marvel universe.
The Spider Cinematic Universe.
The Spider-Verse.
The Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse.
Alright.
Alright, so where are we at? Number 2?
Numero dos.
Number 2, Captain America Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Yeah. Only because I've always felt that this movie definitely bends against the superhero genre and felt more, at least for the first 2/3 of it, the end of the movie is definitely action-packed superhero movie, but the first 2/3 of this movie felt very spy thriller kind of jam. And Robert Redford as what's his name? I can't remember Robert Redford.
The bad guy.
The bad guy. Yes, Dr. Bad Guy.
Dr. Evilman.
Dr. Evilman. He was great, and I thought that did a really great job, defying expectations of the superhero genre up until that point, and that the Marvel superhero movies could be something other than just plasticky and Avengers. That one felt like it really had, and it did a great job setting up into Civil War, where we feel that Captain America is actually a real character. He's a little bit more than just Star Spangled Banners and I'm here to serve my country and. We got a little bit of that in the first Avengers, but
What was it? I loved what Honest Trailers said about Captain America: Winter Soldier, which was, you were too crazy about his first movie, and he wasn't your favorite member of the Avengers. Now comes the movie that proves that Captain America actually kind of kicks some serious ass.
Yeah.
Like,
he does.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, he totally kicks ass.
And you definitely feel like it's funny because like with the it's always been like this across the comics and everything like that. Is that Captain America is always unbelievably outgunned.
Yeah.
Like in every kind of like cosmic situation, but they gave Captain America a movie. Even in the first one, he was literally Captain America versus the entire Nazi army or Hydra army, whatever. They were pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, yeah, all right, sure, but kind of a little outclassed here. But like the second one, Winter Soldier, felt like okay, like these are scopes and scales that like he can deal with.
Yeah.
Whereas like both the Avenger movies, you're like, man, he's a guy with a dinner plate going up against a giant metal robot that is controlling a floating island. I don't know how Captain America's gonna
Still makes more sense than Hawkeye and his bow and arrow.
Yeah, yes, it does. Just because it's a superhero soldier. But, like, his plot armor is thick. But we'll see how thick it is.
I still don't think he's going to die in this one.
I do. I think he's dead at the end of the movie.
I think he's dead in the follow-up.
I think he's dead at the end of the movie. I don't think that you wait to kill him until I think that one of the big things that you set up into the next movie is, like, who's going to carry the shield? Is Captain America going to be coming back? Like, I think you set that up. It's like you wouldn't wait to reveal that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father for the first 15 minutes of Return of the Jedi. Nobody would give a shit.
True enough.
Nobody would ever talk about it. You got to set up a really great cliffhanger at the end. And I think you do that by
killing off Cap,
the death of Captain America,
or Iron Man, for that matter.
I don't think they're going to.
I think Iron Man 4 has been confirmed.
No way, really?
I think that could have just been a false rumor I saw on the Facebook links. So. I mean, it would make sense to have that kick off Phase 4.
Iron Man 4?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know. Let me see.
I think that one could be more of him passing the torch kind of a movie.
Yeah, I could see like Ironheart, like the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Like maybe like Shuri or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alright. At any rate, has it been confirmed? Are you looking at it?
Nah. I don't see anything.
Okay. At any rate, yeah, like I said, that was
His
probably...
contract is up after Avengers 4.
So, probably not. But
never say never.
Never say never.
Who knew we were going to get this many friggin' Star Wars movies? Seriously, if you told me 5 years ago that you were like, hey, did you know that you're going to have like 3 new Star Wars movies in 2.5 years? I'd be like, shut up. Freak 4.
4, yeah.
We're coming up on 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never would have believed you. If you had told me after Revenge of the Sith that they were like, oh yeah, you're going to have 4 more superhero movies before the time you're 30. I'd be like, get out. Shut up.
Suck my dick.
You're wrong.
And I was like, oh, hey, you were right.
Yeah, alright.
Alright, at any rate. So, my number 2, I'm actually going to go with the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I don't think we need to get into too many details of it because we kind of brushed on it a little bit with the second one when you mentioned earlier, but for me, it was I knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. I just didn't know that much about them. In fact, my only real knowledge of the Guardians was what they were like before this whole space pirate revamp.
Okay, yeah.
Back when they were actually more like beat cops or like private detectives of space.
Yeah, they're weird. They've had so many different iterations of like space pirates, mercenaries, like bank robbers, and then they were like for a legitimate
for a long time.
Like the Shi'ar like type deal where they were like kind of like the X-Men in space.
Yeah.
Where like their intentions and motives were very altruistic.
Yeah.
And they were literally guardians of the galaxy where, now they just kind of like
They just go where the money is.
They kind of fall ass backwards into saving the universe.
Right, exactly.
Even in the comics, that's how it's been now for the past.
Well, even in this movie, like that's how it happened. They kind of fell ass backwards. But the reason why I liked it though is because it puts so much more emphasis on. Because let's be real here, the plot isn't that amazing. In fact, the villain isn't that good either. Like Ronan is.
I like Ronan.
Ronan wasn't bad.
It also introduced us to the Kree.
It did introduce us to the Kree.
Which is a huge part of the Marvel Universe.
Which have also had more of a role on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. than any other part of the MCU, to be quite honest with you.
Whatever.
You're like, whatever, that show.
Yeah, that show's right.
The point I'm trying to get at, though, is, first off, this was the first... Like, there had always been, like, a little bit of humor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this was the first legitimately funny movie.
Yes.
From front to back, this was supposed to be hilarious.
Yep.
Also had two of the greatest cameos you never noticed. It had Nathan Fillion in it.
Yeah, it did.
And it also had Rob Zombie in it.
Where was Rob Zombie?
Rob Zombie, you don't see Rob Zombie at all. Rob Zombie plays the voice of one of the space pirates on one of the Harbingers. He's just like, hey, Quill, we got, or it was like, Yondu, we got Quill over here, and he's looking to talk to you or whatever. Like, you don't see his face at all.
That's stupid. That's like when Daniel Craig played a stormtrooper.
Exactly.
So I hate that.
Yeah.
I feel like they just lie to us. I feel like they just lie to the general public, and they just get them to go along with it. They're like, yeah, no, I did that.
That was totally me.
No, I was totally
me. I was totally JB007. Like.
No, I agree.
But yeah, that's kind of it. Like this was the first time. So like other characters, like Captain America, Thor, and even Iron Man and the Hulk might not have been like the biggest name characters, but people knew who they were. Like you mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy to anybody before this movie, everyone would be like, "What?"
Totally lost.
And so this was just Marvel just doing absolutely what we've now come and expected Marvel to do, which is we're going to take one of our C-listers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of your favorites.
Yeah, exactly, which it is. So, kudos to you, Marvel, for taking a ragtag team of misfits that nobody cared about to now being my favorite ragtag team of misfits.
It also does so much to expand that universe, too.
Yeah, it really does.
In so many ways. It takes it off Earth, and it really expands just literally the entire universe. Like, when they say MCU, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and, probably the new Captain Marvel movie that's coming out, and Doctor Strange to a lesser extent. That's more dimensions than universe, but still, it really puts that U in the capital. Rather than just, the, Marvel Cinematic World.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So before we do our number one, Dan, let's read off our honorable mentions.
Cool.
You first.
So I got 3 honorable mentions.
Oh, you got 3. Okay.
I got three. And all 3 for very different reasons. I did my first honorable was for the first Captain America movie. Because nobody likes that one, but I do.
You know what? I like that movie. It's not the greatest movie, but you know what it does really well? It does what it's supposed to.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It tells us so much more about Captain America than was previously established.
Exactly.
Which was nothing, actually. But also, we never got a Marvel period piece before.
Right.
We got a Marvel period piece. The whole movie takes place in World War II. And, like I said previously, there's nothing more American than Captain America going around punching Nazis.
Exactly.
That's just...
In fact, we're actually about to get another period piece next year.
That's just the tops. That's the bee's knees. Yeah, we are getting another one. Captain Marvel's supposed to be early 90s.
Right, exactly.
But, I don't know.
I can't wait to see how much Nirvana and Pearl Jam is on that soundtrack.
Seriously, there's going to be so much flannel and so many Walkmans.
So many Walkmans, yes.
So many Walkmans. So my other, and I'll go really quickly through these. I've got Ant-Man, which I felt like we said about Guardians of the Galaxy being just a genuinely really funny movie. Ant-Man 2, same thing. Just absolutely hysterical from start to finish. I really was not expecting to like that movie because I do not like Ant-Man as a character. I hate Hank Pym. Everyone hates Hank Pym.
Yeah.
Hank Pym's a dick.
He is a dick.
He is a dick.
A wife-beating dick.
He is a super dick.
Yeah.
There's actually a really funny. It's not a funny story about how that happened, but that was a total miscommunication between
the writing team and the
writing team and the
and the illustrators.
That was never the intention in the comic, was to have Hank Pym hit Janet Van Dyne, but that's Van Dyne. That's right, Van Dyne, not Dick Van Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
Janet Van Dyne. But yeah, but that's how it, and it just became such an integral part of that character, and everybody hates Hank Pym
because of that, and that was
that
was 40 years ago.
Right, and even the fact that that's how much it shows how terrible it is, how terrible of a person you are if you beat up your spouse. He created Ultron, the megalomaniacal robot that kills millions.
He basically created Skynet.
And people hate him more for the fact that he hit his wife.
Right.
Exactly. That's a lesson. Keep your goddamn hands to yourself.
Exactly.
Build
all the killer robots you want, but goddamn it, don't you hit a woman.
Yeah, keep your goddamn hands to yourself.
Exactly.
But I did like Ant-Man. But I don't think they're really going into that Hank Pym dark side with the MCU.
No.
They're trying to stay away from that.
No, they
very obviously has some anger issues.
They kind of glossed over Tony Stark's alcoholism.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did kind of glance over that.
Yeah.
And okay, but so all right, so that's the honorable mention for Ant-Man. You know, alcoholism, beating up your spouse is terrible. But Doctor Strange, I'm also going to throw in there only because I've got a wicked soft spot for all the Jack Kirby kind of creations and definitely that fantastical sense of space and time. It's just a super fun visual movie. Plus a little thin. I think they did Dormammu dirty. But I'm excited to see Doctor Strange too.
I hope Dormammu comes back. It'd be interesting. They could definitely bring Dormammu back with this Infinity Gauntlet thing.
He's not gone.
No, he's not gone.
They made a deal.
Yeah. They made a bargain. They made a bargain.
They've come to bargain.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's just chilling in his own dimension right now. You have to promise he's not come back.
Exactly.
Well, even if he did, he's Dormammu. He doesn't give a shit.
Exactly.
Dormammu, damn it.
No. He said he wouldn't come back. Nobody ever said anything about somebody else bringing him back.
I'm pretty sure Dormammu is going to do whatever Dormammu wants.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Also, the only thing I didn't like about Dormammu was the way they designed him.
Yeah.
I just remember him in the maybe not so much the comic books, but definitely the cartoons, where he had the flaming head.
Yeah.
I'm like, that would be a way cooler visual. Yeah. Because you know what he
reminded
reminded me of? Honestly, you know what he reminded me of? The way they portray Moses on South Park.
Oh yeah.
Noir.
Yeah. He's pretty much like the Galactus version of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
More or less. Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Galactorider.
Which actually happens.
Of course it happens.
Yeah, well, actually, Ghost Rider becomes the Herald of Galactus.
Of course he does.
And then Ghost Rider actually teams up with Thanos at the end of it. And Ghost Rider is actually Frank Castle.
That makes too much sense.
This is Spirit of Vengeance, Frank Castle. Yeah, it was. I think it wasn't like a what if because Marvel doesn't do what if anymore, which I miss because I love what if.
Yeah.
But they ran some like mini
like it's actually canon.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not even close to canon.
Okay.
Don't even ask me what universe number it takes place in. I think we're beyond that now.
Yeah.
I think didn't we just reset back to just Earth 1 or Earth 0?
I don't know. Marvel's kind of screwing the pooch in their comic books right now.
It's so hard to read a series now.
Because they keep rebooting everything.
Oh my god! Do you know how many there are so friggin' many X-Men #1s?
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to pick up on it and just to show a lesson. Like Superman, I think it was 800.
Yeah.
Came out on Wednesday of last week or Tuesday of last week.
I thought it was Action Comics 1000.
Oh, it was Action Comics 1000. You're right. That's what it was. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's how you number a comic. Like, stop.
Yes. Whoa. It just kind of it's kind of like they think that because it's a #1, it's gonna be worth money. It's like, no, it's not the number of the issue that's.
I get why Marvel did it because they had to sell off so many assets and they needed to stop selling those comics because all they were doing was effectively giving free advertisement to Fox or Sony or what, you know what I mean? So
whoever else had the rights to their movies.
It made sense why they killed off the Fantastic Four are finally coming back.
Yeah.
Not that I care, but they are. It's a thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand why they did it, but they just did it in such a bad way.
Yeah.
And only because I don't care that you need to redo the continuity of things. Fine, whatever. Cool, but don't mess up your numbering system. It makes it so hard to read.
Exactly.
Oh man, friggin' mess.
All right. And anyway, now that little sidebar is over, my honorable mentions are: I'm going with Thor Ragnarok as one of my first. Easily, I'm going to say this right here, right now. It is easily the funniest out of all the MCU movies.
Yeah, actually, that was floating around. Probably would have made my number 6. I'm actually surprised I forgot to put it in.
Honestly, this could have very easily made my list. In fact, I almost made it my number 3.
Well, it has one thing that none of the other ones have.
What's that? Jeff Goldblum?
Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, you are correct in that statement. And I'm all done with that, Jeff Goldblum. I can't carry that on.
That's fine.
Again, I've said it before, and this is just my biggest problem with this movie is still hands down that I think that they showed way too much in the trailers.
I think that's just a problem with
in general. Yeah, but for some reason, it's this movie in particular that it's bothering me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is because it's one of those things where I got it from a marketing perspective why they showed the Hulk, but I personally, as a fan, would have just preferred it if they kept that a secret. Because just think about how much crazier you would have gone in the theaters if you didn't know that was the Hulk about to pop out. I'm also going to go with Captain America: Civil War for an honorable mention. Great movie, fun movie, a lot of A lot of great fan service. It's just I think push comes to shove at the end of it. There were just movies that were better done without all the fan service. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
And it's just like there are. Let's just say I think as far as that movie, the villain of this movie goes, I do like this movie villain, but I do kind of concede to the arguments that that his plot is a little contrived. I will give it that. Even if they do manage to barely tie it all in together with just that one little line of how he said like everything went better than he could have ever expected, it's still kind of
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess if I had to pick one more honorable mention, I'll just go with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Pretty much for all the reasons why you said it was on your list, so. And that's going to do it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and Dan, number one?
My number one is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
I mean, it would be kind of like circling around that the whole time. And I don't think we need to go into too much more about this because we've already hyped it up about 3 times this episode.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, great soundtrack, great story, lots of fun, super funny, good action, power of friendship.
Earth, fire, wind, Groot.
It's also got Groot.
It's
also got Vin Diesel, which is something none of the other Marvel movies have, except for Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. That's Baby Groot.
As Baby Groot. And now he's going to be back as teenager Groot.
Yeah, so, funny story, that is not the same Groot.
No, it is not. It's Groot's son.
Yep.
It is the offspring.
That is the son of Groot.
The son of Groot.
So the Groot that we know and love is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you like Baby Groot. I like Baby Groot.
I like Baby Groot. Baby Groot was hysterical.
Yeah, but arguably might have liked Baby Groot better.
I'm going to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, Baby Groot's adorable.
Yeah. My number one is another movie that I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about because we've already talked about it a bit, and I'm going to go with Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. I mean,
we circled around the best one. There were no surprises here. Like, did anyone actually think that we were going to like call out and be like, yeah, we really like Iron Man 3? Nah.
Leave a comment if you wanted Iron Man 3 to be on this list.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You didn't.
No. Yeah, I don't really know where else we can go with it.
I really like the first Thor.
I like the first.
Sucks. Like, if we're gonna count like top five,
that's the chick flick.
That if we're gonna count like top 5 worst, I would probably put like the first Thor.
Mm-hmm.
I would put the Hulk.
Yeah. I always forget about the Hulk.
Yeah, everyone does.
I put the Hulk as number 1 just because I always forget about it.
You never see it on like anyone's top 20 lists
of anything.
Of anything, nobody ever includes. But the Hulk is canon. The Hulk, the Hulk, Ed Norton. Like, all of that is inside of the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure they even gave it the same treatment where it has, like, a post-credit scene thing at the end. And, like, they allude to, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. and a bunch of other stuff, like...
Yeah, it's a post-credit scene with Tony Stark talking to Thaddeus Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. At the end of it, yep.
Yeah.
No, terrible. I would put, probably Thor, Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 3, in no particular order. Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2... I'm trying to think who would fill out that 5th spot. The Hulk.
Hulk, yeah.
Yeah, the Hulk.
See, we forgot about it.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it, and we totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are we going to do about it? I think I'd have to agree with you on that entire list, too. I don't
Isn't
think
it funny how, like, just, like, the last Thor was, like, the only good one, and, the first Iron Man was, like, kind of the only good one.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3 is okay.
There are things about Iron Man 3 that get flack that I actually enjoyed. Like, a lot of people didn't like the relationship between him and the little kid. I thought that relationship was hysterical because every single time it looked like they were about to go with the whole, campy and adorable route, they just completely and undercut it by making Tony and the little kid just banter sarcastically towards each other. It was hysterical.
Right.
That part I liked. I didn't mind the idea that they wanted to deal with Tony Stark's psyche and how he was dealing with the whole near-death experience in the Battle of New York. But there just wasn't enough of him in the suit.
Yeah, no, there wasn't enough of him in the suit. It was a superhero movie that had a very, we got it very much at the end and a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
And Gwyneth Paltrow in, the Iron Man suit, Pepper Potts in the Iron Man suit. And then Guy Ritchie with the what's it called? The
I don't know.
I can't remember what it's called, but like that organic living suit thing
Yeah.
that he has, which was just weird.
Yeah.
Like the Mandarin just kind of like flopping over and just not really being a thing, which was like they set up the entire movie for.
Yeah, unless you watch the Marvel one shot.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's just kind of it's one of those things that, like, yeah, sure, it's funny, but
no,
also
I get
at the same time, like, you took the viewer on this trip,
and you undercut it,
and then you undercut it at like the last second. You were like, no, never mind, just kidding. Remember that thing that you were thinking for the last 45 minutes? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
no, I get it.
Don't do me.
I think that would have worked out better had the movie done a better job with its comedic tone, which it didn't do that great of a job with overall.
Yeah, it was hard to balance between like I have PTSD and witty banter with the kid.
Yeah.
And Pepper Potts constantly freaking out.
Yeah, in fact, the biggest thing I don't like about Iron Man 3 is that they don't really touch upon his PTSD at all after.
No. Yeah, they make it like feel like PTSD is just something that you're like, I guess it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, you know what? I just had a couple.
Yeah, that's not how it works. That's not how life works. That's not how that happens.
No.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess I just better get on with it. It's
yeah.
Like, no, dude.
No, you don't just get on with it.
That's
In fact,
not how
you get tortured for a while.
Yeah, that's not how that works. Yeah.
But backtracking though, the only real thing I'm going to say about Captain America: Winter Soldier that I don't think either one of us had, and then I think we can start wrapping it up, is I really feel that that's the movie where the MCU hit its stride. Because I think ever since that movie, it's just been home run after home run after home run.
And Iron Man 2?
Huh?
What movie?
Captain America: Winter Soldier. I think that's when it really hit its stride.
I think that I mean, yeah, there really hasn't been any
misfire since then.
No, there really hasn't been any low points like since then. I like Doctor Strange, but I have some issues with it.
Yeah.
In that like it's very predictable.
Yeah.
And it's super formulaic. But I think that there's enough about it like visually and because it's a character that we don't know that it makes up for it and balances it, because I don't think that you could do anything too drastic when introducing a brand new character like that. Like even with Black Panther, like we already knew who Black Panther was before he even got a movie. Doctor Strange, we were coming in completely blind,
yeah.
And I think as the difference between like Guardians of the Galaxy, you don't have 5 different personalities that you can kind of play off on,
right?
As like the main focus. Like you kind of got to pick a lane. But yeah, Ant-Man was good, but just not. Yeah. No, I guess that that's fair to say. It's like, but that's when they hit stride. That's when they found their note.
Yeah.
When they knew what they were doing. Yeah.
You missed horribly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that'll.
Yeah, I guess that's gonna do it for us. All right, guys. Let us know what some of your favorite MCU movies in the comments below. Just make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all this good fun stuff. Dan, thank you for being here. And I guess the next time you listen to us, we will be doing a review for Infinity War.
Woo!
Woo! I've been waiting for this movie forever.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Okay, everybody, that's going to do it for us. Dan, thank you for being here, as always. Alright, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was fun. Who's for Chinese?